Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Isshinryu Today. We are live here in Lexington, North Carolina. We thank you for tuning in this Wednesday evening for our live podcast talking about the codes of Isshinryu Karate. So we'd like to welcome everyone back. We didn't do one on Easter, which is Sunday, because it was Easter Sunday and everybody needed to spend time with their families. But we're back here tonight on Wednesday, and we'll be back on our regular schedule on Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time coming this Sunday. We'll be discussing Code 5 if we get done with Code 4. However, just like we always do on the beginning of the show, I'd like to give a few shout outs. This is going to be a great show, and I hope we have a lot of interaction. And then I'll tell you a little bit about what we got planned toward the end of the show whenever we get down to the last code. I got some exciting news that I want to talk about, but anyway, we'll get going. So tonight's shout outs, I'd like to give a shout out to our founder, Grandmaster Tatsuo Shimabuku. Grandmaster Tatsuo Shimabuku, thank you so much for your time and your service with our servicemen that sacrificed their lives in teaching them this wonderful art of Isshinryu Karate, the One Heart Way method. Isshinryu, thank you so much, Tatsuo Shimabuku. And this is a show that is dedicated to preserve and protect the lineage and the heritage in which you come from. We want to spread your culture. That was one of your dreams, is that your culture would be spread throughout America, and we're trying to do it throughout the world to even broader that perspective. The second shout out I'd like to get to is to our first generation students, the students that studied directly under Tatsuo Shimabuku, the first generation students. I'd like to give a shout out to you guys because not only were you servicemen serving our country and fighting for our freedom and fighting for our standards, uh, you were fighting for your country at such an early age. You gave some gave all, and all gave some. So you gave some kind of dedication and memorial to our country, but to our style. You were nice enough and bringing this back to our country so that we could be a part of Isshinryu Today on today's broadcast. And then next, we'd like to give a shout out to our second generation students. When the first generation students come back, folks, they had to start Isshinryu from its very beginning stage here in America. And once they did that, they had to find ways to spread Isshinryu Karate. So these second generations kept those traditions alive and went out abroad and spread Isshinryu and into its infancy until its state that it is today. And so we want to do our part as the next generations of students to preserve, protect the standards, protect the heritage and lineage line in which you come from. But we want to spread that abroad to everyone and share with anyone that we possibly can so that they can come to know what a wonderful style and how this can change their lives and help them lives throughout their livelihood and pass this on to the next generation and make sure that it's passed on the correct way. That's what we're trying to do here on Isshinryu Today. So we're trying to remember where we come from in order to know where we're going. And that's a true statement that's said here on Isshinryu Today. Every show, we must remember where we come from in order to know where we're going. Let's not ever forget that, guys. I like sharing this because I'm very proud of where I come from. My lineage line is Grandmaster Phil Little, who trained under Grandmaster Harold Long, who trained under Grandmaster Tatsuo Shimabuku. I'm very proud of that. And I count it an honor, a true honor, and a true privilege that I'll never forget to say thank you to my sensei, Grandmaster Phil Little. And we're going to talk about some events that he's having coming up in September. But I'm at this part of the program, I'm going to pass it over to our co-host and let her give you guys a few announcements. But before we do, I want you to understand that you can be on the program as well. There is a link that has been shared in the comment section, and the link is https StreamYard dot. No, that's not that the link. Yeah, that's the link. I'll let her share that. She's good at sharing that stuff. I'm trying to read it, and I'll let her share that. But it is in the comment section, and we'd love to have you on the show. But if you click that link, That will bring you in the bottom of the screen here. I can see that your face will pop up. All you got to do is cut your camera and your mic on, and we can have you on the show. We can have up to 10 guests
Yeah.
live on here, just like me and Rebecca are. So we'd love to have you on the show to talk about you, share your journey. We could schedule that in advance if you'd like. She's going to tell you how. Guys, thank you for tuning in to Isshinryu Today. I'm excited about tonight's program. I've really been thinking about this code a lot all week and how the other ones play into this code. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But for right now, I'd like to bring on to the to Isshinryu Today our co-host, Miss Rebecca Forrest, and she's going to share our announcement section of the program. Miss Rebecca, welcome to Isshinryu Today. Could you please share our announcements?
Well, hello. Welcome to Isshinryu Today. And like I put in the comments, uh, if there's any video or audio issues on y'all's end, please excuse us because we do have a storm going on outside and the wind is pretty strong outside, so it's probably blowing the lines and stuff around out there. Um, as far as being on the show, I did share. If y'all can scroll up in the comments, it's the second comment down. I ended up posting the link. Oops, there it is. Look at that. You can actually take that link that starts HTTPS and just copy it and paste it into your browser if that's what you need to do. It should bring you into our studio, and then we should be able to see you there. If StreamYard happens to ask you, for allowance, allow StreamYard. Otherwise, we can't see you. So that's the thing about the Facebook. When you go through the Facebook group or whatnot, um, and you do comments, if StreamYard asks for an allowance or something, allow StreamYard to do something, then let StreamYard do it. Otherwise, you come up as a Facebook user. So that's why we were saying to please put your name in the comments if you're commenting from the Facebook group, just in case, because we want to know who we are interacting with, because we want to be able to interact with everybody if possible. Um, let's see. And as far as announcements go, uh, Circle of Masters. Circle of Masters will be September 14th, 2024, down in Anderson, South Carolina. It will be located at 201 East Reed Road, and it will be hosted by Grandmaster Phil Little. I love him. He's so sweet. Um, that is something that you want to go to. You definitely want to attend that. It's going to be a day full of knowledge and learning. And if you don't have friends, if you have no friends at all, and you come to the Circle of Masters, I guarantee you by the time you leave, you're not only going to have friends, but you're going to have a big, huge family to hook up with later. I'm gonna promise you that. But they have seminars during the day, during the morning time, and then after that they split everybody up and they have fun little competition. But the main thing is not really the competition part. It's about the learning and the knowledge that is shared. So you don't want to miss that. Um, there is a tournament that is hosted by Master Tony Williams. It's going to be in Crossville, Tennessee, May 18th. And that is the Middle Tennessee Isshinryu Open Karate Games. If you would like information on that tournament, then you can go to Facebook, go to the Lebanon Dojo Facebook page, and you'll be able to find out more information on that tournament and download the registration paper, print it out, fill it out, stuff like that. As I believe our host said, our podcast will resume on Sunday at 3. And right now it is open. That is open for guests. Um, if you would like to be a guest, then shoot us a message. Go to his messenger. Go to my Facebook messenger. If that's a lot easier for you guys to do that instead of going to our Gmail, shoot us a message and say, hey, I'd like to be on the show. Okay. And then that way we'll be able to get up with you and tell you what you need to do, which is not really much, just short biography and stuff like that. That way we can give you a good old shout out and get you scheduled for the show is what we want to do. Let me see. I'm looking through my notes. If anyone has, I do want to throw this in right quick. If anyone has ordered the AMAA 10th anniversary biography book that was part of my fundraiser, which is still going on until April 14th. So yes, I'm still looking for sponsors because I love you guys, and I want to thank the sponsors that I do have so far. But if anybody has ordered a 10th anniversary biography book, that's the AMAA, bring it to the Circle of Masters because I would love to personally autograph your book because my karate biography is in that book. So, and I believe, and let's see if you would like to sponsor for that, it is fundraiser.com. That is fundraiser.com /Rebecca hyphen or line for back to you, Mr. Host. We're buffering a little bit, so but yes, we are definitely looking for some more guests to be on the show until Mr. Kyle Forrest can get back on here.
I'm
Then
I'm here.
my announcements are done.
All right. Thank you so much for the
Okay, I'm
announcements.
sorry we were buffering. So
Thank you so much for the announcements. I appreciate them. Yes, we are having a little the wind is terrible here, guys. It's 25, 30 miles per hour. So
it is.
the internet is maybe bouncing in and out. I do apologize. I know that is very disturbing if you're trying to watch. However, hopefully right now it seems to be working pretty good. So I want to get on with the program. I'll be reading
It
tonight from this book right here. It's called the Isshinryu Karate, the Ultimate Fighting Art, and it's by Harold Long and Tim McGee. Um, that is my reference book. If you'd like to get one of those, you can contact Hanchi Phil Little. He has those for sale. You can get that as well, and he'll autograph it for you. So, want to give a shout out to that. My reference book there, I call it my Isshinryu Bible. It's my go to for everything, including classes and stuff like that. So, also, the part of the program that I enjoy the most is going out to prayers, thoughts and prayers to some people that needs our thoughts and prayers. Uh, we have a student of ours, Clayton Raybell, who's had knee surgery, and his wife is undergoing
yes.
treatment, and that family definitely needs some prayers and some thoughts. So I want you to let you know that you are in our prayers, you are in our thoughts. Keep my brother Chris Forrest in your prayers too. He fell out of his truck and he's injured his knee. We'll know more next week whether he's going to need surgery or not, but he's down until Monday. He goes back for the MRI on his knee. So I want to keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And then a student of mine out of New Bern, Christine Saxton, keep her in your thoughts and prayers too. Just a special
Yes.
request there. No need to be talk about, but just keep her in your prayers. Okay. All right. Let's talk about code number 4, but let's revisit a couple other codes before we get into this code, because I think the precedence of this is going to set the stage for this code. Okay. A person's heart is like heaven and earth. That's code number 1. The blood circulating is almost the same as the sun and the moon. That is code number 2. The manner of drinking and spitting is neither hard nor soft. That's code number 3. Code number 4 is a person's unbalance is the same as weight. So, correlating that, I want to really break this down, and I want to give you some thoughts tonight to think about, to ponder about. I don't really like to say this is exactly what this is. I want you to think about this and apply it to your own life, to your own training. to your own spirituality, if you will. But a person's unbalance is the same as weight. So when I read this, it's talking about a person. So that would be one, or a person's could be more than one. But unbalance is the same as a weight. Now, my question to some of you guys, and you can answer, but I'm going to ask some questions too, uh, probably to the audience, and you can write in your reply or you can come on and talk about it. But when I was thinking about this code, I was like, okay, a person's unbalance is the same as weight. Okay, so in a combative technique, I look for unbalance when I'm defending myself against someone. I want to stay balanced so that if I become unbalanced or become angry, according to the Isshinryu Bible, if a person becomes angry, their balance is upset. That's just another obstacle that they have to overcome. Agreed. That's awesome. But I want to go in a little bit more detail in discussing this code. A person's unbalance is the same as weight. My question to you is weight a good thing or is weight a bad thing? So I want you to think about that. Is it saying it's a bad thing or is it saying it's a good thing? Or is it both? That's my question to my audience tonight. I'm going to discuss some of these. And then as we talk about this, I really want you to comment in the section or leave your replies or even get up with me later and let's talk about it more. But there's no right or wrong answer. But, and the reason why I asked that question is the weight a good thing or is the weight a bad thing? So if you apply this to your training, I want to be balanced, of course, when I'm doing my training. I want everything to kind of be on the equal strength of each other. But sometimes having that weight will let me know where my weakness is. So the weight of that weakness helps me focus on my weakness so I can get it balanced out with my strengths. So sometimes the weight may not be a bad thing. Sometimes I need to focus more on the weighted side so that I can bring it up even with the good side, the weak side, bad side. So it's circulating just like the first code or the second code. And it has characteristics of both with heaven and earth because it has to have the opposites in it. The manner in which we do this and understand this, it's critical, just like the manner of drinking or spitting is either hard or soft. So is the weight unbalanced is the same as a weight. So let's think about I've got a real good, let's say that I've got a real good front snap kick, but my side kick's a little weak. Okay, so in a self-defense situation, if I focus just on my strengths, I may be in a position to where I can't use my strengths. Now my unbalance, which is my weak side kick, may not be as effective as I need it to be. So I need to be focusing in class time on that weight, on that side kick, so that now I have a strong front kick and I have a strong side kick. So depending on the situation that I need to use both of those, they're both equal or they're both going to do is the damage that they need to do. So in a physical realm, yes, it can weigh you down. But here's what I want to think about a little bit deeper. Let's dig in. Let's get our shovels out. Let's dig into the dirt just a little bit. See if we scratch the surface off something a little bit different. So, how do you know that your tire is unbalanced? It wobbles, right? And when you take it in, they balance it. Well, to balance a tire, they put weights on it. Now it's balanced. Now it runs smooth. Have you ever had your tire changed? They put those little counterweights on the other side. They put it on a balance machine, wobbles, wobbles, wobbles until they put the weight. The correct amount of weight shows that either the rim has a weakness or something else is wrong, but they had to add the weight to it. So, yeah, the unbalance is the same as a weight, but was the weight in this case was a good thing for a ship in real water, real deep water, real rough water. They use weights to hold it in place or to keep it balanced. So they may use an anchor. The anchors have to be displaced in two different places, but the weight is what is holding the ship in place. Is the weight a good thing or is it a bad thing? Um, And I would say it just depends on the situation. It depends on the situation. For example, there are other systems that are so unbalanced. For example, um, the Kung Fu system, the Drunken Master, it's totally unbalanced. And sometimes unbalance can be a good thing to throw the other person's balance off. So, is the weight good or is the weight bad? But either way, a person's unbalance is the same as that. So, weighing in on this situation, and I said weigh, pun intended there, weighing in on this situation, it really depends on the situation that we come across. Some things in life is really hard for us to go through. It weighs us down. It's an obstacle that we think at that time that we need to overcome quickly. However, the weight of that makes you stronger. It prepares you. It gives you that experience of going through certain things. So, yes, at that time, it is an unbalance in your life. It is not everything's in balance. Um, and but sometimes we need that weight to put us where we need to be to get everything balanced. So sometimes the weight can be a good thing. There are times when the weight can be a bad thing and it weighs people down so much. For example, they talk about you need to eat a balanced diet. Okay. Well, sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a bad thing. It all depends on the situation. Um, if you tell a person I was talking to Richard today at work again, and I work with Richard, so we get to talk about this. And we're talking about the show, and sometimes you know his balanced diet with him having diabetes sometimes has to become unbalanced. And sometimes it does become unbalanced. His levels gets unbalanced. Things get unbalanced and things start going on. In a physical realm, if he becomes unbalanced, that could be dangerous. So if he eats nothing but nutrition, sometimes he has to have some sugar or sometimes he needs to take some sugar away. It all depends on the situation, just like life. Sometimes we think everything is going good. We think everything's going great. All this is happening for a reason. We're going good, man. Everything's great. Everything's balanced in our life. We've got our home life balanced. We've got our exercise balanced. We've got everything with the cars is going good. Everything is balanced. And then all of a sudden, something gets out of balance. Well, the manner in which you handle that is, I believe, what this code is talking about. How do you become unbalanced and stay balanced? I think it's due to training and through your experiences of life expectancy of the things that you experience in your life. And in my opinion, I believe that it's either hard nor soft. It's neither bad nor good. I think it's an obstacle. Yes, it is an obstacle in combative situations. If you become unbalanced, if I fall down, I need to know what I do in case somebody lands on top of me. I want to look for those weaknesses in my defense. If I can unbalance the person, if I can unbalance them, I can knock them down. If I can unbalance them, I can turn them. I can grab them. I can pull them. I can shove them. Sometimes the added weight of this, though, in a combative situation, can save your life. Should I be deeply rooted so that I can't be knocked down? I may need to add extra weight to my back foot so I can't be dragged. If I get to the ground, I may need to add some extra weight so it makes it hard for my attacker to move me. So sometimes the weight in a combative situation can be good. And sometimes I look for the unbalances and I try to move in a position because I can't do anything about an attacker's position, but I do everything about my position. And sometimes my position can change the attacker's position and unbalance them. And then when I see that, that's where I want to attack. That's what I want to attack. So as you see, these codes are collating together. They're tying in together as we continue to go on through the codes. we're having to revert back to the other codes to understand what this code's really talking about. Um, when you start talking about a person's unbalance is the same as a weight. Code number 4, let's talk about a person. A person, just singular, okay? So if a fight is unbalanced already, and let's say a person has many persons around them, maybe multiple attackers, maybe 4 or 5 people, maybe two, or maybe they're limited to some certain things. Do we have katas that can help us in our limitations to bring the balance back to a level fighting area? For example, maybe an attacker on each side of us. Is there a kata that we have or something that we can use or some type of criteria that we can go to help us out in this situation? Of course we do. Maybe Nahachi kata. Maybe our back's against a wall and we need to maintain our balance and use that wall as our lever point to move our attacker, to upset their balance, maybe turn the tides. Learning your katas, learning these things, and applying these codes to your katas and your movements can save your life. Okay. And understanding that sometimes you need to know, just like the manner of drinking or spitting is either hard or soft, that breathing apparatus, that breathing, understanding how to use heavy breathing, light breathing, just different types of breathing, um, the same as the weight. So I need to understand when I need to apply more weight. I need to understand when I need to take more weight off. Now, remember we were talking about the car being balanced and the tire on them being balanced, okay? They put weights on that to balance the tire. They put weights, anchors to hold the boat in place. But on the other hand, if I'm a tightrope artist, I don't want anybody adding any weight to either side of me because I'm going to topple over and fall down. So weightlessness holds its purpose as well as weight. So sometimes may need to take some weight off one side or the other. I'm walking a tightrope. I want to be balanced. Okay. The unbalance of that, yeah, that's an obstacle that I can overcome because once the scales get teeter tottered, you're either going, okay, and you'll see them, and they'll kind of counter their weight and their balance, and they'll put themselves in a position they can take the next step. And that's what I think this code is saying. I think this code is saying take all the stuff that is around you, make sure that you put that in your life, make sure you put that in your training so that you can take that next step. And when you take that next step, you remain balanced, unmovable. You can see in all directions, you can hear in all ways. Everything stays in one focus, in one person. It's hard to get unbalanced. When it's 501, it's already unbalanced. You got to make up that difference somehow, or you got to escape. 5 on 0 or 5 on 1. Hey, get out of there. Even odds, even odds. If I'm distance away, then I just removed that weight, that obstacle. The biggest thing that you got to do is understand is how to stay calm in these situations. It is an obstacle that another one would have to overcome because we breathe faster, our heart beats faster. We may make rash decisions to where if we had trained a little bit more, we may have responded versus reacted. Now, I want to talk about that a little bit. A response is I see that the grease is hot and I choose not to touch it. A reaction is after the fact I've touched the grease. My reaction is, ow, it burnt me, it's hot. It's two different things there. And you have to understand how to use both of those because both of those are going to be effective whenever it comes for you to defending yourself or you performing your katas. Um, I like Hanshi Little taught me something very important. Just a little lesson, and it wasn't really a physical application, if you will. It wasn't a physical application. It was a conversation. And in this conversation, studying the methodical approach that he took to a certain situation, I learned something very valuable. I was unbalanced. I was unbalanced to the point to where I wasn't thinking clearly. He said, stop, stop. Let's take a different approach to this. Let's go around this just a little bit. He taught me that in this situation of thinking, I could not make a valid decision that was for the betterment of everyone, not me, everyone. And to me, that balanced out my thinking. That balanced out my thinking on how I approached certain situations. I've got to control myself. My biggest attacker is myself. This is what it taught me. My biggest attacker is myself. My worst enemy is myself. Myself will put myself in situations that I should have never been in. My decision making to respond or react to certain things is sometimes terrible. I'll react and then I want to respond. It's too late then. I've done added that weight. Now I've got to take care of two extra things. So be careful. Be methodical in your movements. Think this thing through. In your katas when you're moving, make sure that when you move, not when you get to the end of the move. For example, uh let's just use Seisan kata. My first move when I step into my Seisan stance, my Seisan dashi, and I use uh, my side block, and then I throw a straight punch. Well, if I become imbalanced in the middle of that transition, none of that's going to be effective. All of that it has to arrive at the right time. It has to get there with enough authority. It has to have enough retraction so that I can use that technique again if I need to. And then I have to stay balanced and ready for the next attack that may be coming to my way. Kata, keeping your attacker by terminating the attacks. Um, all this has to move methodically. All this has to move evenly. All this has to move proportionally balanced. Now, is there a time in there that I'm unbalanced? Well, there could be, but the more I train, there shouldn't be. However, I don't need to be so stiff and rigid that I can't move away from that. If that technique didn't work, I may need to go to something else. If I depend on my strengths, my weaknesses will be my downfall. So train your weaknesses to be equal with your strengths. I believe in this code is what it's telling me. I should be equally trained in all areas in case I need to use whatever tool I need out of the toolbox. If I only use a hammer, then that's all I'm going to be good with. If I use a screwdriver or a weapon, if you will, I may be good with the weapons. Speaking of weapons, you know, one of the biggest things I got this year was when Hanshi Little did his bow seminar in Anderson, South Carolina. I learned so much. Not about, I'm not going to say not about what, yeah, I'll say it, things I was doing wrong, but not so much the technique, but in my balance, in my transition, in my footwork, in that little things, just minute things that played a major role in my understanding of why the weapon felt bad in my hand or this technique just didn't quite feel right. It wasn't because I wasn't doing it wrong with my hands. It was my feet was wrong. And I mean, not wrong, but it just wasn't where it needed to be. It was unbalanced. It was unproportioned with the technique that I was trying to deliver. Neil Simpson says, I think it's really important that I brought up Nahachi as an example. And I do too, because Nahachi kata, if I took a spiraling circle and I started at the tip top of your head, and I made a spiraling circle down to the bottom, if you'll notice that position roots you, it really roots you to the ground. It becomes what you want to call a centroid, which and I'm going to explain what a centroid is. Because like, what the world is a centroid? Well, a centroid is the strongest gravitational pull because the centroid is the center of a triangle. When I look at Nahachikata, I think of a triangle, and I think of the strongest gravitational pull is dead center. And this is one thing that Hanshi Little talked about. He said, you run that pole dead center down your body into that floor. And guys, I'm telling you, it's balanced. If I was to spin around that thing, I'd be balanced on all sides. Now, Hachikata does that. It puts things in proportion to where things are centered, things are equal, things are equivalent to each other. It also allows you to move very quickly. And I did an exercise at a seminar one time, speaking to Hachikata. One of our codes says we should be able to see in all directions, okay, or all ways, or it says that we should be able to change directions at any time. In the Hachi, it proportions your body enough to where you can turn all the way to see to the center and then turn the other way to see to the center. Not many of the other stances, and I've experimented with a bunch of them, but it's hard if you just stand there and try to turn and look behind you. However, you can see 180 one way and 180 the other way. That's 360. It's all the way around you. I think Seisan prepares us for that. And I think all our katas do that. But I think we have to understand where our balance points are when we're making these transitions. And they're not hard to find when you become unbalanced. They're not hard to find because if you try to stay in a certain area and you find yourself swaying off, for example, in our exercises in chart 2, yeah, I'd love to have you join us, Sensei Simpson, if you would. I'd love to hear you talk about this because this is just a fabulous code to me, and I really love it. I'd love to have you on if you could. I'd like to have you. But what I was talking about in our chart 2 exercise to where we do our leg extenders. If we look up when we're doing these leg extenders and we look upward with our eyes, you'll find yourself that you fall to the right. If you look down and you extend your leg, you'll find yourself falling to the left. Well, in a fight, that can be crucial. If I look up and fall to the right and I'm all unbalanced, I may be getting hit to that side. If I fall to the left, I could be falling forward or to the left. It could be dangerous. So it teaches me that balance point of where I need to stay in position to this balance point whenever I'm fighting or defending myself. Miss Rebecca, can you send him the link to get him on? I'm not sure how to. If I can get him on here, I'd like to have
He's
him.
got it. Yeah, I sent it to him in his messenger.
Oh, okay, okay.
I sent the link to him in his messenger.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is a person's unbalance. Now, we talked a lot about keeping your balance, okay? But a person's unbalance is the same as a weight. Now, we asked a question earlier in the show. Is the weight a bad thing or is the weight a good thing? And if it's a good thing, then maybe we need to work on them. Maybe we need to work on our unbalance. There he is. I'm going to add him to the stage, guys. This is Master Neil Simpson.
There he is.
I'm going to add him to the stage. Hello, Master Simpson. How are you, buddy? You got your mic on?
Yeah, his mic's on. It is on this side.
Okay. Hey, buddy. How are you? I've got you on here live. I don't know if I can't hear you. I don't know if you got your mic on.
Let me see.
Do you have your volume up? Can you hear me, Neil?
On. Oh, wait. Yeah, his mic's on. Can you? There he goes. There he is.
Welcome to Isshinryu Today, Master Simpson. It's a true honor to have you on here. And I appreciate you coming on here. And I know you wanted to talk about some of this. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you talk about some of the things that we were talking about. Can you hear me, Sensei Simpson? I don't know if he can hear me or not.
Hello.
Hey, buddy, there you are. How are you?
Doing great. How is everybody?
Doing great. I'm glad you came on to the program to share with us.
I should.
Well, I thank you. Feel free to talk about. I seen you wanted to jump in right when I was talking
Doing well.
about
Can you
that.
hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you hear me, Miss Rebecca?
I can hear you fine, Neil.
I can hear you a little bit, yeah. We sorry about that. So we're storming around here, so the wind's blowing kind of hard.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Yeah.
How about that better?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. That's a lot better.
How is that?
Perfect.
Is that better?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we're
Loud
good then. Sorry.
You're fine.
No, I thought it was great when you brought up Naihanchi because I down in the YouTube chat I put in the Chinese for the code, right? And the very first character in it, the characters across the board, and the one that Master Shimabuku used means roughly, the first one is kind of difficult. It'll mean something like weight, or it can mean something like two things are the same, like at a unit of measure, right? So you're saying roughly they're equal to each other, right?
Mm.
And then the second character means to advance or come into something. The third character means to step back or withdraw. The fourth one means to separate, or like they'll use it sometimes for like divorce. And then the last one means to meet or come together. And so if you, the one that like Yagi Sensei and Higa Sensei and a lot of the Goju-ryu folks will use pretty much says that. It said like the feet coming together and, or the feet moving forward and coming back is the same as, or like basically moving forward and retreating are the same as separating and meeting, right? So it's kind of like, well, what does that mean? You know? And then in Master Shimabuku's, it says a person's imbalance is the same as his weight, which if you look at the characters, you're like, how did they get that from that? But it's pronounced exactly the same, but there's a character difference in the original Bubishi. So the thought is that they used that, like there was a kind of a gloss in the translation, right? And that character is the one that should be the original that's in the YouTube, right?
Yeah.
The character, even though it says Bay is the name of it, right? Means horse. Right? So it means horse. So we're like, okay, how does that equal, like a person's imbalance is the same as his weight, and you're like separating and meeting, advancing and retreating are the same, you know, how does all of that kind of come together? And you brought up Naihanchi, and Naihanchi is the answer to how all of that comes together, right? Have you ridden the horse?
I have. Yes.
Okay. What happens when you're moving a horse? What does your upper body do? What do you try to keep your upper body still, right?
Yeah.
You separate your upper and your lower body.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Your lower body's doing whatever, moving with the horse, all of those things, and your upper body is
just like
seated.
rigid. Yeah.
Right. You know, it's doing whatever and maintaining your center on it. So that is the key to what it's getting at. Right? So it's like in the manner that you ride a horse, moving forward, attacking, retreating, going back, doing that, you have to separate and then bring back together both halves of your body in the same way, right? That's the idea that it's trying to get to, right? So when somebody would see that, because classical Chinese that it was written in, it was kind of like there was no even necessarily specific order that the characters had to be in, right? So when you look at that, the idea behind it is like when you're riding a horse, how you have to separate your upper and lower half, and then sometimes you have to bring it right back together, right?
Right.
Especially in military terms, you know, you
Yes.
got to think like sometimes what they may be doing, right? So because this
Yep.
was a military manual, right?
Right.
So that is kind of what it's getting at in here. So it's the same way in Naihanchi. When we work Naihanchi, right, our legs are rooted, right? But our upper half is moving all around. It's doing a lot
Yeah.
of different things. You know, like you said, it's how does my weight need to be? Do I need to bring my weight together? Right? Do I need to bring it together where I'm rooted? Like if I'm punching something and I need to root it to the ground, that way I can really get my weight behind the strike. Or do I need to kind of keep the two separated where I'm more mobile, you know, where I can, you know, parry something and change an angle, or if I'm doing a throw or something. So it really speaks to exactly what you've talked about all night long, that the necessity of doing both, you know, of
Right.
managing those two together. So it's like managing body weight, managing your structure, you know, and then using as the example for that horseback riding. You know, so I thought
That's
that was really
outstanding.
good that you brought up Naihanchi for it, because that's like the ideal example to me of that concept is Naihanchi, and that separation that you have to do with your upper and lower body.
Absolutely. And I thank you for sharing that. And on that note, what brings to mind as you was talking about that is our other katas that we do, Shinto.
Mhm.
Shinto kata seems to be a kata that
Mm.
even though it's at a 45, the balance of changing on the terrain levels and the balance of the balancing of that creates the same two I'm not going to say problems, but the same two opposites where they come together.
Yeah,
Would you agree? Yeah,
I totally
Chinto.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
how do I
Chinto is.
manage that? You know, how do I
Yeah.
manage that problem? Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say? I mean, see, what I want to make sure that I'm on the right page. Of tying all these together. If I can tie all of these together in every single move, um, do you think that was the master's plan as a standard?
I think it was obviously important to him, right?
Hmm.
It's one of the things that he gave. It was as a document itself. Um, we see changes in it, right? Master Shimabukus were in a different order
Hmm.
than the one that the Goju-Ryu students had been using, but they got theirs from specific people and kind of passed them all around amongst themselves, right? So there were different orders there, but like we said, in language, the order didn't necessarily even matter,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes different characters were used, right? These two characters between the weight, you know, or the similarity between in weight to two different things, and horse are vastly different, but they sound the same in Chinese. So it's, you know, you can see somebody said, okay, yeah, I'm going to write down what I was told. And because they knew the concept, right, they just assumed that they were talking about like the weight and them being similar, right? That way you have to keep everything balanced, like we talked about. You know, you move in and out of balance with it as you need to, right? Sometimes
Hmm.
you want your balance to be rooted if you're going to do something. Other times, perfect example in Sun Tzu, like when we do the nukite,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? You know, we do one and then we go forward and do 1, 2. It hits before your front foot plants, right?
Yes, yes,
You're moving
yes.
forward. And that's an example of what we're talking about here. There, you want your weight to go into the opponent, right? That's the specific reason that our foot hasn't hit yet, is because we're talking about weight transfer. That's
Right.
what we're trying to teach in that, is weight transfer. So in these cases, if I'm striking with my front hand, I want, and as much as it's possible, my front foot to be up off the ground if I need it to be, because that's just more weight that I can put down into the opponent,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's kind of what we're talking about with something like this. So even though when they looked at it, they were like, I don't know which character. Well, it makes perfect sense to use this one, even though the original character was horse. The concept was exactly the same that they wanted to relay, which was sometimes you're going to have to kind of disconnect your upper and lower halves. Sometimes you're going to have to bring them back together. How do you do that? Totally depends on the technique you're doing, right? And that is for every single move throughout the kata, right?
Absolutely.
Every kata that we do, every kihon that we do, every technique, yeah, that is one of the threads that goes through all of it. And I think sometimes people can take it where it's so esoteric and out there that they lose the real practical meaning of it, which was what this was. You know, I'm not going to say that people weren't getting other things out of it too. They obviously were, but it's a very practical thing, right? When you look at it, it's like, yeah, like when you're riding a horse, separate them sometimes, bring them together sometimes, do what you got to do to, you know, use your weight effectively for the technique. So,
and well, and even elementary, on an elementary stage, a bicycle, your feet are having to pedal while you're staying stationary. So even for the children, if you're learning to ride a bicycle, you know, you take those training wheels off, you start, you know, until you get everything moving together as one, which is awesome because bringing this in to coalition of, if we tighten the fight up. Okay, so if we got in close, me and you together, and we got in close, and now I've taken on my weight plus the movement plus your weight. Now this is what he's talking about. When I add that extra weight, if I'm not used to training with any extra weight, or I'm not used to training in a method to where I move that way, that can be disturbing and very hard to overcome if you're not used to it.
absolutely. You know, do I meet your weight head on?
Exactly.
Do I redirect your weight? You
Yeah,
know,
the placement of that.
right. You know, what do I do with my weight and your weight? You know, so it's absolutely, all of those are key concepts to it that start these conversations like we're having now. And that's the beauty
Yeah.
of the codes, is they're there for this, exactly what we're doing right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anyone have any questions that they would like to ask while we have Master Simpson on? Let me tell you guys, this guy right here is knowledge. And if you want it, he's got it. I can tell you, he's taught me so much. We have conversations more. I would like to have more, but we do have conversations. He's shared a lot of things with me. As a matter of fact, he did my lineage line all the way back, even before Tatsuo, his lineage line. I've got a chart that he sent me that's phenomenal, and I'm going to print that thing out and I'm going to put it up somewhere because, you know what, that's outstanding, and that's what the show is about. One question I had for you, Sensei,
Okay.
with these concepts and with these principles, I know we're talking about moving forward, and we may be talking about moving back. But in these techniques that we deliver and that weight displacement into an attack, how important is that to get back as far as like retraction?
So again, it's totally situationally dependent, right? So let's take toward the end of Seisan, right? You've got a back fist, and then you come back and you pull it in, right? And then you step over into a kosadachi, a crane stance, and then you throw a kick, right? So Seisan was one of the core kata, right? The Seisan, the name of it is a reference to, you'll hear it sometimes referred to, the 13 energies, or the 8 steps and 5 gates. And that's talking about, like, if you look at like the corners, right, of which direction you're going, and then directions of movement, forward, back, left, right, and then center, that would be the 5 gates, right? Like up and down, vertical.
Yeah. Yes.
Or those also have like combinations and connotations of those 8 directions as being things like splitting, like in Seisan at the some people call it like a waiter's block in American English, you know. So when we come up and we're here, that idea of splitting their energy in different ways is one of the core concepts, right, that Seisan was intended to teach. So when we look at something like what you're talking about now, about like getting your weight and everything coming back together, right? So you've moved forward, you've done a back fist, right? And then the very next thing is coming back over and pulling down and in, right? So really easy if let's say I hit you on the right side of your face with my right hand, okay? And then I can reach in and grab your lapel at that point with my hand still out, right? With you stunned or off balance, with your weight lifted up because I've hit you in the head, right? Then I can come back and pull my hand down and redirect you, lean you over, right? And then come across with like a cross kick, at that point. Or sometimes your legs being crossed like that also represented like a throw, right?
Yeah.
So then I could do it and then throw you down from there and then kick you when you're down.
You've
something
done
like
that to
that.
me before.
Yeah. I guess I have. Yeah. So yeah, in that case, it's really important. Well, in every case, it's really important that your weight is doing what you want it to do.
Right.
And that's what it's talking about here is, what do I want my weight to do? You mentioned like the drunken styles. Do I want my weight to be off kilter? Yeah. If I'm fairly certain that I can go in and I can really waylay this guy and I've got my foot up off the ground, I'm taking a chance, right? Anytime you throw a technique, you're taking a chance. Anytime I'm kicking, I've got my weight on one foot and I'm losing half of my stability, I'm taking a chance.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So how do I maximize my chances of success, minimize my chances of failure, and then get back to some sense of stability at the end of it? Right.
Outstanding.
And it's all happening like that.
That quick. So, yeah. Quick, instantaneously. Well, Sensei, I thank you for coming on to the show. We only run an hour, but I'm telling you, I'm digging this. I've got to have you back on the show. I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you for the whole hour, 2 hours, 3. I could talk to him all night. But
well, I appreciate you sending
just let us know when you can come back.
Yes,
I will.
sir.
I'm glad when you sent the link tonight.
No
I was glad I was able to and come in.
So people, if you are absolutely. So going back to what he was talking about, so that some may just get a clear picture before we leave. Remember, I was talking about in the beginning of the program, we was talking about a tire, and you know that the tire is unbalanced because the way it's bouncing around on the car, and they add that extra weight. Sometimes they'll have to take that weight off, depending on what's happened. Is it the rim that's damaged? Is it the road? Is it the constant wear and tear of different situations? This is what happens to your body as well. Well, the more you train, if you encounter situations, there may be damage that you're going to have to fix, so that everything comes back to working cycle. So, guys, this was a great show. Sensei, thank you for sharing your evening with us. I know you're busy. I hope mom and dad's doing great. I hope everybody's doing good. We're praying for your family. But thank you so much. And we'll be back on Sunday. And if you can make it, we'd love to have you. If you can't, we will schedule a time for you. Okay. Thank you, guys. God bless you. God bless you all. Good night. God bless you. Ray, have a good evening. Goodbye.
Good night.